And welcome back to Subculture. Well, right now we are going to take a look at another show which is part of the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. It is called The Marvellous Elephant Man, and to tell us a little bit about it, we've actually got the director of the show, Chris, on the phone right now. Welcome to the program, Chris.
Great, thanks for having me.
So, Chris, tell us a little bit about The Marvellous Elephant Man.
Yeah, right. Where do I begin? I guess your audience would probably be familiar with the David Lynch film, The Elephant Man, or the Bernard Pomerantz play. It's a bit more esoteric, but that came first, and that was a play in the late 70s that was made popular on Broadway, featuring David Bowie, in fact. And following that, David Lynch made a film which was a little bit darker and more twisted. So our story is kind of the reimagining of the story of Joseph Merrick, the Elephant Man, in somewhat of kind of, I guess, like a adult Disney dark comedy pantomime spin on it, where we've taken his story and we've taken some creative liberties and given him a happy ending. And it's also full of a lot of really fun dark humor. So yeah.
What was it that made you decide to tackle the story of Joseph Merrick? Was there something about that story that really drew you in?
You know, it's my creative team, the writers of the show, three musicians who are very good friends of mine, Michael McCassie, who's from a band called Vaudeville Smash, and Sarah and Jane Nandigopin, who are a couple who are from the States, from New York, and they sort of started writing it with Mark years ago, almost, you know, as a bit of a laugh. They came up with one song, and based on that, it started to take shape, and as they started doing more research and understanding more about Joseph Merrick's story, what was originally intended just for a bit of a laugh, but it's quite a serious story with a lot of heart, you know, and I think the key thing to it is it's not punching down, it's not making fun of Joseph Merrick. It's making fun and poking fun at the prejudice of the age of the Victorian era, and a lot of the, you know, some of the bad people with bad intent that were floating around, and really empowers Joseph Merrick, the Elephant Man, into having a lot of agency and a really great character arc, and which is not dissimilar to who he was. I mean, what made Joseph Merrick such an incredible person, such a fascinating story, was his ability to sort of survive in an era where even an able-bodied person would have a lot of trouble if they didn't have an employment, ending up in the workhouses and whatnot. And, you know, he managed to navigate that, and through a lot of goodwill of people around him, find a relatively happy ending, I suppose. Yeah, our story definitely goes off on a pretty wacky tangent.
You mentioned before some of the heavyweight actors that have done this role over the years. How did you go about casting for this show, especially the role of Joseph?
It was a complicated undertaking. You know, we have cast a fairly wide net in terms of different people who could suit the role, because Joseph Merrick is the Elephant Man was known for his sort of, you know, pretty severe deformities. We didn't have a particular look in mind. The way that Bernard Pomerantz approached it in the original play was to have the actor sort of not perform without prosthetic and more assume the pose and the mannerisms and character in their performance. And that's something we've chosen in terms of how our character comes to stage, with the exception of some really simple white face paint. We've really tried to keep him a fairly blank canvas and let the audience project onto him how they might imagine the character to look. And that also really allows us to give him a really great transformation into this hero who sort of saves the day without, you know, limiting the actor's performance. And it's especially difficult with, you know, we couldn't really have prosthetics on someone's face if they have to be helping out a show tune. Now, in terms of finding the right actor for the show, those are the parameters. We're open to anyone, any age, any, you know, ability, from disabled performers through to fully able performers, to really find who is the right person. The most important thing was performance and sincerity and their ability to sing. And we landed on a guy called Ben Clark, who just came off the Phantom of the Opera. He's got a pretty extensive background CV as a performer. He's one of the 10 tenors and has been in musical theatre for some time. And the moment he walked into the room, we could just see he had a lot of compassion, and in his personality, is a very humble person, but is also an amazingly talented performer, a great tenor, and he knocked it out of the park. And once he fell into place, we were joined by a lot of really great musical theatre performers. There's a guy called Kanan Breen who plays Dr. Treves, who's the villain in our story, and Kanan's been with Opera Australia for 20 odd years. He started out in Baz Luhrmann's production of La Boheme in Broadway in the early 2000s, and he's played every villain under the sun, as well as Willy Wonka in the Willy Wonka recent Gordon Frost production a few years back with Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. The heroine in the story is Annalise Hall, who's a QPAC graduate from a couple of years back, and likewise, we must have auditioned 20 odd people plus for each part in terms of callbacks. We really needed to make sure the cast was right, and subsequently it's translated on stage, and the response has been amazing, so we're really blessed to have such a talented cast on board.
How has that felt for you as a director, getting to work with such talented actors? Because like you said, you've got some real heavyweights there in the Australian musical theatre scene. What's that been like for you as a director, getting to work with such an amazing cast?
Look, it's been very inspiring, also, at times intimidating. My background is independent film, and that's sort of where I'm more comfortable or familiar. I'm fortunate to be joined by a co-director, Guy Masterson, who's a West End, UK-based director and producer. He's won a number of awards around the world, including an Olivier Award for one of his productions, and he's a few years my senior, and I've been really lucky to have him on board co-directing with me to help me navigate that space. So it's been an eye-opening experience across the board, but it's been really collaborative. This is a new work. It's something that the writers are in the room with. One of the writers is playing one of the leads, who's sort of this Lou Ferry-esque character, Carla Pinocchio, for John Merrick, who helps guide the Elephant Man on his journey. And Sarah and Jay are in the band as well. It's a 5-piece band that accompanies me the performance. So we're still, forming the story and exploring, and that's a really fun thing to be able to do with actors who are, offering a lot and making some great suggestions. And this sort of workshop process has been really, really constructive, and what's come out of it is something pretty unique.
Definitely. Now, for all of our listeners out there, if you want to head along and check out The Marvellous Elephant Man, it is on at Chapel Off Chapel right now, and it goes right through to the 23rd of April, and you can grab all of those tickets from the Comedy Festival website or the Chapel Off Chapel website. Chris, what would you like to say to people out there who are thinking about heading along to check out this production?
Preview show sold out last night. Our opening night sold out. Tickets are moving incredibly fast. There's a lot of hype, so I do suggest getting in there sooner than later if you're interested. It's been incredibly well received. We've had something like 15 5-star reviews. It's very funny. It's very sad. Audience members are literally breaking into tears, and also riotous laughter. So there's something there for everybody, and it's a really unique piece, and we're very proud of it. So we'd love to get Melbourne theatre fans along to the show to spread the word and support a original Australian production.
Definitely. And once again, listeners, you can go and check out The Marvellous Elephant Man at Chapel Off Chapel. It is on right now. Chris, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us today. It's been an absolute honour having you on the show, and I can't wait to head along and check this one out as well.
Looking forward to meeting you. Thanks, buddy.